What's up guys, today we're going to be going over the Bombardiers rework. They got an update for all 4 subclasses in the game that will add a special effect to the dodge, so they're very cool now. So we're first going to break down exactly what they do, then making a really cool build to take advantage of these things in PvE. Right now my code error is 30% off for GFUEL through the 6, so definitely take advantage of that. Go ahead and click the link in the comments and description, it'll take you over to their store. Some of my favorite flavors right now for tubs are the juice, then for hydration, Phase X, and for cans I like Sonic Peach Rings, then also Blue Chug Rug. So looking at what this exotic does now, dodging leaves behind an explosive that detonates after a short delay, damaging targets around it, and creating a secondary effect based on your subclass energy type. Arc will blind targets, Solar will burn targets, Void will suppress targets, and finally Stasis will slow targets. So looking at all 4 of those, first off, the Bombardiers are still extremely good for group at clear. The explosion is really good and will pretty much clear out all low tier enemies for you. But now with the added effect on Arc, it will blind targets. It seems like for it to blind them, it has to do damage to them. So it's not going to be like a huge radius like blinding GLs, but still really good for anything that doesn't die from the initial damage will then be blinded and you can easily follow up on them. When I first saw this rework, I thought it was going to be like crazy, like blinding GLs and just like blind everything left and right in the entire room. And it is not that good, which kind of makes sense because with some of the builds you can just spam dodges left and right and you would pretty much just have everything blind forever. Then up next on Solar, we will add burn damage to targets. Once again, the base damage of the detonation is good enough to kill most low tier enemies, so it won't really do anything for them, but for majors, as you'll see, it will burn them. And it's not that much of a burn tick rate like most burn effects in the game, so once again, nothing too crazy. Then on Void, it will suppress them, and suppressing is more of a PvP vein, but in PvE what it does is it pretty much prevents the enemies from using their secondary attacks. It usually makes their primary attack slower, and finally prevents enemies that can TP from TPing, so not too bad, kind of up there with blinding. Then finally on Stasis, it will slow the targets, which there is already an aspect on Stasis for Hunter that will slow enemies when you dodge. So I tried to combo that to see if it would instantly freeze the targets, because if you slow a target that's already been slowed, it should freeze them. But unfortunately, it did not seem to work that way. It just re-slowed them. So honestly, that one isn't that great because an aspect already does that. So overall, the only ones that are really worth using are the Arc and Void ones. And that is good because with Arc, what we can do is use Top Tree Arc Strider and have an infinite dodge chain between your melee and your dodge ability with Gambler's Dodge. Also on that subclass there are 3 melee buffs, the first one being Combination Blow, which will give you health back on powered melee kills. Then powered melee kills will give you a stacking buff to your melee damage up to ×3. Then finally activating your melee will increase the range of your melee attack. So looking at how all that works in the game, pretty much what you do is just dodge, melee, dodge, melee, dodge, melee, back and forth, and you have an infinite chain of your Bombardiers, and also you'll be stacking Combination Blow all the way to ×3, which will increase your melee damage, making it even easier to refresh your dodge over and over again. So pretty much an infinite Bombardiers combo. So that is already working pretty well, but this build will take it to the next level, and we're going to be using a bunch of Elemental Will mods and weapons that take advantage of melees. For example, a Swashbuckler primary, then 1-2 punch shotgun, preferably an arc shotgun, so either this or the Found Verdict. Then we also have the tractor cannon on to apply the debuff for our melee hits. Now looking at the mods we'll be using, the first one we'll be using is right here, Melee Wellmaker. Getting a powered melee final blow will spawn an elemental well matching your subclass type, so arc on this build. Then we have Well of Ions, where picking up an arc elemental well will cause your next melee to do increased damage. So every single time we get a melee kill, we'll pick up an arc well, and our next melee will do more damage. Then on top of that, we have Phantom Might. That way when we pick up the arc well, we will also get a buff to our arc weapon damage for our shotgun. Then the other 2 elemental well mods we'll be using are around the Bombardier Explosion. This one right here, the Explosive Well Maker. Rapidly defeating combatants with explosive damage will spawn a solar elemental well. Then when we pick up that solar elemental well, we'll use Well of Life to give us constant regen to our health. So how this all works now is you just do the dodge, melee combo back and forth. But now as you're doing that, every single time you get a melee kill, you'll get an arc well, which you'll pick up instantly because it'll drop exactly on your location, which will cause your next arc melee to do more damage. Then on top of that, you will get the Phantom Might buff, which will give you 25% more damage for your shotgun for those high health targets. Then every single time you get kills with Bombardiers, you'll create a solar elemental well, and picking that up will give you 10 seconds of constant health regen, which will allow you to play as aggressive as you need for this build to work. And looking at the full damage combo on Carl, our melee will hit for 147.5 thousand. So looking at DPS of that, one combo Shotgun shot into melees takes 1.2 seconds, which means a DPS of almost 300,000, which is obviously really good. So this build is insane for group ad clear. And then when you get to those higher health targets and those bosses, you still have insane DPS for them. So overall, this build is pretty much just a one-man army. You just pretty much run through everything by yourself. You have the Bombardiers for the low tier ad clear. Then you have the melees for the higher health targets. Then you have the full combo for bosses and like mini bosses. And while you're doing this, you're gonna have constant health regen because of the solar elemental wells. Every melee is going to be doing more damage because of the arc elemental wells, and finally your arc shotgun will be doing increased damage too because of Phantom Might. So overall, there is a lot of synergy going on with this build, and it is really cool and really good in PvE. So overall, did the Bombardiers rework make them top tier in PvE? I'm not quite sure if the rework itself is what is making them so good. I think it's this build that is making them really fun, and just how it works with top tier Arc Strider. I think the 4 effects from the Bombardiers now aren't anything too crazy. Like I mentioned, you have to do damage to a target for the effect to work. So for the most part, the explosion will kill most lower tier enemies, so therefore it pretty much does nothing. But for the blinding on arc, it is pretty good for majors. When you dodge next to a major, the Bombardiers won't kill them, and they'll be blinded. That way you can quickly follow up with a melee. So that is pretty cool and will help you stay alive. So overall, the rework is cool, but I don't think it is like that crazy. But on the other hand, this build definitely is crazy and makes them really, really good in PvE. Anyways, I think that's me it for the commentary. Once again, my code AIR is 30% off on GFUEL through the 6th. Definitely take advantage of that. And like usual, let me know what you think about this build. There's some strike gameplay left. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.
Kill them. Bring our dead. You face final round.